The world moves so fast there's almost no time for history. It seems like years ago that we were hearing that Trump was colluding with Russia, that he wouldn't have won the election without Russia, that his whole presidency was a kind of Putin plot. Well, there's now serious evidence that it was the Clinton campaign and Hillary Clinton acolytes that were directly involved in the generation of what has proven to be a conspiracy. Untrue. Think about how much media you watched. Me, a person who I would think, broadly speaking, is from the left, a liberal, certainly not a Trump supporting Republican, with respect to those of you that are, I find myself in awe, gobsmacked, flabbergasted and startled by these revelations that Russiagate was a democratic conspiracy. Let's unpack that now with the help of Glenn Greenwald. A lawyer for Hillary Clinton's 2016 campaign was indicted on Wednesday with one felony count of lying to the FBI about a fraudulent Russiagate story he helped propagate. We have to recollect just how prevalent this story was. Every late night talk show, all over the news, it was just, you were bombarded with it.
It qualifies as collusion.
The product of collusion.
And collusion?
And my personal perspective is, I want the world to be better. I want to believe that the Democratic Party are reliable, that they are the party of inclusivity and diversity and truth and social justice and all great positive ideas. What my concern is becoming is that these are totemic issues pushed to the forefront to mask ordinary, regular corruption. Like the Russiagate thing, the Hunter Biden laptop, all of that stuff. Like, there are people that just absolutely believe that that's true. And when you watch something like that Social Dilemma documentary that says we all live in bubbles where we feed off certain types of media, it's becoming like, there's becoming a deep bifurcation with people over here believing in this reality, people over here believing in this reality. And in a sense, we need to come together to form a collaborative vision for what America is, or accept that you can't have nation states anymore, that you'd be better off with separate confederacies, separate independent places where people can believe in their own separate truths, because truth is complex, but lies are obvious, and Russiagate was a lie. Michael Sussman was charged with the crime by special counsel John Durham, who was appointed by former President Trump to investigate possible crimes committed as part of the Russiagate investigation, and whose work is now overseen and approved by Biden Attorney General Merrick Garland. Sussman's indictment is the second allegation of criminal impropriety regarding Russiagate's origins. In January, Durham secured a guilty plea from an FBI agent, Kevin Klein Smith, for lying to the FISA court and submitting an altered email in order to spy on former Trump campaign official Carter Page. The law firm where Sussman is partner, Perkins Coie, is a major player in Democratic Party politics. One of its partners at the time of the alleged crime, Mark Elias, served as general counsel to the Clinton 2016 campaign. The lie that Sussman allegedly told the FBI occurred in the context of his mid-2016 attempt to spread a completely fictitious story that there was a secret server discovered by unnamed internet experts that allowed the Trump organization to communicate with the Russia-based Alpha Bank. I wasn't following that stuff particularly closely, but I remember it was seen as a defining issue in the election in 2016, still in 2020. It was something that was being talked about, and it was like being sort of, in a way, discussed as if it was just an absolute fact. To discover that this was propaganda, a construct, a confection by the Democratic Party, who of course are now in government, is kind of beyond disappointing, because you begin to question and query what other things may not be true. Once you recognise that people create certain truths in order to meet certain ends and aims, the idea that you might be able to trust their integrity obviously dissolves. This in itself is a big enough issue to cause concern, but what else is implied? I suppose what I personally think is it suggests to me that everything is a kind of construct. All of the information that's peddled and rendered is unreliable. The primary function is to create a state where people do not query or question and go along with edicts and ideas that are convenient to the powerful, and truth is just lost and just irrelevant for expedience. In the context of the 2016 election, in which the Clinton campaign had elevated Trump's alleged ties to the Kremlin to centre stage, this secret communication channel was peddled by Sussman both to the FBI and to Clinton-friendly journalists as smoking gun proof of nefarious activities between Trump and the Russians. Less than 2 months prior to the 2016 election, Sussman secured a meeting at the FBI's headquarters with the Bureau's top lawyer, James Baker, and provided him data which he claimed proved this communication channel. It was in the course of trying to lure the FBI into investigating this scam conspiracy theory when Sussman allegedly lied to Baker by concealing the fact, outright denying that he was peddling the story in his role as lawyer for the Hillary Clinton campaign, as well as a lawyer for a tech executive hoping to be appointed as the top cybersecurity official in the soon-to-be inaugurated Clinton administration. Again, I suppose like many of the stories and subjects that dominate the current news cycle are so important that you want to believe that what you're being told is as just authentic conveyance of truth, not that the person that's like, if at the time we're like, oh, there's this, you know, there is these allegations that Trump was in cahoots with Russia. Who's saying it? Oh, the lawyer for the Clinton campaign who will be given a role in cybersecurity in the event that the Clinton administration comes about. Do you think that could be a factor then? I mean, in a sense, we need a class. Like, one of the things people continually lament is that we have this class of professional career politicians who can't be relied on. But actually what you want is a class of professional career politicians who can be relied on. And part of that profession should be, you can't have these relationships outside of it. You can't have people campaigning for this, having these type of relationships, leaving this office to go into this office, leaving this role in government to go and work for that tech firm. All of these things require some sort of regulation. Sussman's claims that he was just acting as a concerned private citizen. Look, I'm just a concerned private citizen, just like any. I'm just a regular Joe that's currently working as a lawyer for the Clinton campaign, just a mum and pop operation. Then I'm gonna be just a regular guy, a regular Joe six-pack, heading up cybersecurity for the Clinton. I've got no skin in the game. I just want to see justice served with this imaginary pretend bunch of lies I'm peddling. Those claims that he was just a concerned private citizen were negated by numerous documents obtained by Durham's investigation, including billing records where he charged the Clinton campaign for his work in trying to disseminate this story, including his meeting with Baker at FBI's headquarters. I'm just a regular citizen receiving payments from the Clinton campaign. I'm just conducting meetings with Baker at the FBI headquarters. Got to drop my kid off at a soccer game, then I'm going to do some little league practice, then I'm having a meeting at the FBI. I'm just a regular Joe. I'm a concerned citizen. This is a really specific life you're living. The FBI went on a wild goose chase to investigate Sussman's conspiracy theory, but the Bureau quickly concluded that there was no evidentiary base to believe any of it. It has long been known that the Trump Alpha Bank story was a fraud. A report issued in December 2019 by the DOJ Inspector General revealed that the FBI investigated whether there were cyber links between the Trump Organization and Alpha Bank, but concluded by early February 2017 there were no such links. So from 2017 onwards, why was it still being peddled? Because it was a good idea. It was a good idea. The whole dislike of Trump from the left was based on, this guy's corrupt, this guy's an idiot, this guy's a liar. And what's the alternative? Despite all this fraud, one of so many that formed the Russiagate scandal played a significant role in shaping media coverage of the 2016 election. Spurred on by Hillary Clinton herself, the liberal sector of the corporate media used this fake claim to bolster their narrative that Trump and the Russians were secretly in cahoots. And the story of how they spread this disinformation involves not just the potential criminality outlined in this indictment of Hillary's lawyer, but even more seriously, a rotted and deeply corrupted media. Ugh. Good language from Greenwald there. It's all rotten. It's rotten to its dirty, stinking core. It's very unfortunate to discover these things about the way the institutionalized corporate media operates, that information is received, not correctly queried. If it's in line with what you already believe, then it's broadcast. If it's at odds with that, you know, there's no judicious spirit. There's no integrity. It's really unfortunate. Whether you look at, like, you know, if you look at the political relationships they have, corruption, they've got political alliances. Then you look at the commercial relationships they have with people that advertise. Oh, pharma companies advertise on there, so we're not going to say nothing about that. Oh, big food, they advertise, we're not going to say anything about that. So its actual function of communicating information to you, me, us, the people, well, that's just pure theatre, just pure theatre. You can sort of only ever, you might as well watch it the same way as you watch wrestling or something, go, well, I enjoy this, but I know it's made up. According to internal emails obtained by Durham's investigators, the researchers with whom Sussman was working warned him that the information was woefully inadequate to justify the claim that Trump was secretly communicating with the Russian bank, and that only animus against Trump would lead someone to believe that this evidence supported such a claim. But by then, the media's Russiagate fraud was in full force and could not be stopped by anyone. This particular hoax got a major boost when the candidate herself, Hillary Clinton, posted a tweet in which she claimed computer scientists have apparently uncovered a covert server linking the Trump organization to a Russian-based bank, which would be, wow, I didn't even think of this, but would be good for me because it would mean like that Trump's corrupt and that, so that'd be because I'm actually standing against Trump, so like if he's corrupt and I'm not corrupt, well, guess what, the opposite was true. The fact is, and one thing I was aware of at the time, even as a critic of Trump, was that you can't criticise Trump this vehemently unless what you want is something that's significantly different, authentic, real, that cares about ordinary people. You know, I've said that it ought to be regarded as, you shouldn't see Trump as an individual icon. You should say period before Trump, Trump, period after Trump, and look at the whole phenomenon. What led to Trump? What happened under Trump? What's happening now after Trump? And look at that whole thing. What does it feel like for ordinary Americans? What's improved? What's improved economically? What institutions have been tackled? What corruption has been addressed? What's really changed? What's happened? If you look at it that way, a lot becomes more clear. The Clinton campaign released its first McCarthyite video using dark insinuations to tie Trump to the Kremlin under the ominous headline, "What is Donald Trump's connection to Vladimir Putin?" And with that, the fraud of Russiagate was off and running, fueled by a combination of the inner Clinton circle, their corporate media, allies and friendly state security services secretly endorsing the narrative for their media partners. We drowned in one false Russiagate story after the next, all courtesy of the same corporate media outlets that insist their mission in life is to combat disinformation and are eager to censor the internet in the name of accomplishing it. The indictment of Hillary's lawyer, Michael Sussman, attempts to depict the FBI as Sussman's victim, but the FBI, still under the command of former director Jim Comey, chose to say nothing about his findings, which debunked the Trump Alpha Bank fraud. This in turn allowed the same army of liberal employees of media corporations that perpetrated most of the Russiagate frauds to continue to deceive the public into believing that it was true, long after it was clear that it was fiction. Look at what's happening now in the media and think, what elements of it do you trust? What do you distrust? What kind of bipartisan reporting are you seeing? What kind of issues are you seeing politically mobilised? You know, because what, do you think this is the first or the last time that such things happened? That there are meaningful moral distinctions between either of the parties in America? Of course there aren't. There was indeed criminality and fraud at the heart of Russiagate. Once again, we see that it came not from those accused of conspiring with Russia. A grand total of 0 Americans were indicted on charges of criminally conspiring with Russia to interfere in the 2016 election, but instead by those who injected this fraudulent conspiracy theory into the political and media bloodstream of the US. Propaganda is real. And again, I personally, as I'm not an American citizen, I don't believe in contemporary bipartisan democracy. I believe in real democracy, community democracy, collective democracy, power for the people that are affected by the decisions that are made by that democratic process, the removal of lobbying, control and regulation of powerful economic forces that dominate the legislative and administrative procedures. So like, I don't see either of those parties as being any better. And when I had my chat on my podcast with Crystal Ball there, she said, no, you can make the Democratic Party good again. And they're sure there's loads of you think you can, you know, like under Trump, we love the Republic. But I think both of these beasts are of no value to ordinary folk like you and me, and never will be until the relationships between government, media, big tech, big business are properly investigated, until there's some real regulation, until there's a commitment to authenticity, truth, open-mindedness. You might think I don't go far enough in saying things, or that I represent this side, or I'm a mouthpiece for the elites, or all sorts of stuff. I read the comments, you know what I mean? But the fact is, I'm a bloke, I worked as an actor for a while, I just say what I see within the limitations that I have. I'm not working for anybody else, I'm not paid by anybody else, I've got no interest in any particular outcome other than the betterment of human society, the betterment of our individual experience. I don't want more power, I don't want more money. What I want is more truth, more freedom for me, more freedom for you. you can't have one without the other. All you can have within those confines are different flavors of tyranny. And if your version of truth is oppressing other people's truth, if your version of victory is that you get to be the perpetrator rather than they get to be the perpetrator, then that's not something that interests me. Real values drawn from somewhere deeper than these superficial systems.